Hi, I'm Monty the Software Engineer, and in this video, I wanted to test out this new feature that I found within Qt Creator. So what I noticed today is this QML Preview button here under the Build menu. I'm not sure when they added that, but I think it's definitely something relatively new because I haven't really seen it before. So let me show you what it does. If I hit QML Preview here, you can see that an application opens much like if I were to run it, except now if I add something like a rectangle, and as you can see, even though I'm clicking on Qt Creator, this application window stays on top of everything. Even if I open up a browser, you can see that it's still on top. So let me make this color blue and anchors.fill parent. So you can see that the QML application here is updating live with all the changes that I'm making here. So I think this could be really useful as I'm developing QML and seeing the live updates here. I think it'll save a lot of time so that I don't have to keep closing and rerunning an application. Now I have found some other QML live previewers on GitHub that I've tried out in the past. Same kind of deal with Qt Design Studio. When I go down into custom C++ components with Qt properties, it usually does tend to break them. So I never really added them to my workflow. But now that this is in Qt Design Studio, I'm interested to see how well this works. So aside from what I did here with adding a rectangle and watching it update live, I actually haven't used this feature at all. So I'm going to go through and develop a quick application to see how well it works and see if it's something that I can add to my regular workflow. And to help out with this, I did create a quick kind of fitness app here in Figma that I'll try to implement within QML and see how it works with this live previewer. So for all these assets, I did also add them into my project folder here within this assets folder. So let me go ahead and add that to my QRC file. Add existing files, and I'll add all these icons that I have that I'll use in the application. This is good. And now let's run QMake. So again, aside from doing these live updates with the rectangle, I haven't used this live previewer before. So this is going to be a real first impression and my thoughts on how well this QML preview works. And because I haven't used it before, there are probably a bunch of tips and tricks with the QML preview that I don't know of as of right now. But let's go ahead and see what we can do with it. All right, so first let's take a look at the size here of the window. It's going to be 360 by 800. Now let's change that and see if this is something that will update live. 360, looks like it did, and 800 here. So that looks good. It looks like it's updated. And so for this UI, I'm going to put these in a stack view. These will be two separate pages that we can test out within the stack view. That way we can see how the QML preview reacts with the stack view. So let me remove this rectangle here. And you can see that it's been removed. Now let's add import Qt quick dot. And the window is closed, but hopefully it'll launch. Yeah, all right, so it relaunched here, which is good. Now let's add a stack view. ID stack view, anchors.fill. Parent. All right, so far so good, no issues or anything. So now let's add a page for the stack view. We'll go to File, New, and we'll add a QML file. And for this page here, I'll just call it the main menu page, main menu page.qml. Next. Finished. One thing that I can tell is Qt Creator is a little bit laggier than usual. I noticed that some of my inputs are taking a little bit longer than usual to register. All right, so here in this main menu page.qml, I'm going to add a rectangle. All right, so we have the rectangle. I haven't run QMake yet. I usually run QMake anytime I add a new file to my project, but I'm not going to run QMake and see how it handles this. So let's give it an ID of background, and we'll anchors.fill our parent. Another thing I'm noticing is the live preview keeps updating, even though I'm updating a page that's not necessarily being shown right now, but that's okay. Let's add a green color here and see what happens if I add it to my stack view. Initial item is going to be main menu page.qml. All right, so that seems to have worked. I've set it to the main menu page and I can see the green rectangle here. So far the stack view is working and it's loading this main menu page, even though I haven't run QMake yet. But just to be safe, I'm just going to run QMake. All right, so let's change this green to this gradient background here. So let me select this color and let's grab the lighter color, which is this. And I'll go back to the main menu page and I'll add a gradient, and I'll add a gradient stop, position 0.0, color is going to be that color we copied. Let's add another gradient stop. We can already see that it's updating here, which is good. So let's grab that darker color here. And then I will add the position, 1, color, the darker color. All right, so this we can see looks pretty good. We can see that there's a gradient here for the background and it's loaded within our stack view. So let's go ahead and add these buttons. The idea here for this fitness app is you would click one of them and it'll bring you to the next page where it starts recording your workout, run, bike, or swim. So I'm going to make the 3 of these buttons here a custom component and see how the QML Live Preview handles that. So let me go ahead and add a new file and we'll just call this menu button.qml. Again, I'm noticing that when I type, it lags a little bit before it enters it in, and I'm pretty sure it's because of this here. All right, now that we have our menu button, I'm just going to run QMake, and let me add a rectangle here. And let's go back to the UI. So here for this button, it's going to be a circle. So it's going to be a rectangle with a width and a height that are the same. And then the radius is going to be half of the width or half of the height. And let me actually just grab this color here. So let me say height is equal to width. That way, whenever we use this component, I'll just set the width and the height will be set automatically. Radius will be width divided by 2. And the color is going to be that color that we copied. And then in the middle of it, there's going to be this image here. I'll have the image width and height set a little bit lower than the width and height of the parent. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll add an image here. So for width, it's going to be parent.width. And I'm just going to multiply by 0.8. Height is going to be parent.height times 0.8. And then let's anchors.center in our parent. And then here, let's add a property, string, button, image source, which will set to nothing for right now. And let's go ahead and use this menu button and see how it looks. So here, let's make the biker in the middle of the page. So I'll do menu button, ID, we'll call this the bike button. And then let's set that button image source to this bike here. And then let's center it in our parent, anchors.center in, parent. And then we need to set the width, which I will do width is parent.width times 0.8. Okay, so that looks pretty good. The only thing is we don't see our image for the button image source. Let me see what happens if I make it, if I put it in here, save, and I don't see anything. Oh, did not set the source for this. So let me undo that. And then here, let me add the source is our parent.button image source. Still nothing. Let's set the fill mode, image.preserve aspect fit. All right, so still nothing. Let's put that back in here. Still nothing. Let's see, we have a width, we have a height. We're centering it in our parent. The source is the button image source, and we have the fill mode. So we're not seeing this image load. Let's see what happens if we close this and run it like normal. All right, so if we run it normally, then we can see that the image is here. Now I'm seeing something here. QML image cannot open QRC assets bike. Interesting. Let's go ahead and do that QML preview again. All right, so I tried to run QML preview and now it's looks like it's collapsed here. And if I change the width and height, nothing's happening. All right, so I'm not sure what's going on here, but if I change the title text here, it seems to be working now. So let's go back to our main menu page. Let me uncomment this. Okay, now that I've uncommented this, I can see that my bike image is now showing up. So that looks like it's working. I'm not sure what really changed. I didn't really change much, but let's just move forward and see what else we can get working. So this button here I think is a little too big, so let me just change that real quick. All right, so I think that looks a little better. Let me go ahead and copy this and add the other 3 buttons for the run and the bike. Run, let me just put up here, and I'll call this the run button. And instead of having it anchor within the parent, I'm going to have the bottom anchor anchor to the top of the bike button, and then add a margin, but horizontally I will center them together. Or actually I can just horizontally center it to the parent. So let me change this anchor here to bottom is going to be the bike button dot top, and then the horizontal center will be parent dot horizontal center. Okay, and then let's add a bottom margin 20. That looks pretty good. So then let's also change this to the running image. And yeah, that looks like it's working. So now let me add another button for the swim. So I'll call this swim button. And let's add this swimming. And for the anchors, I'll change this to top anchor of the bottom of bike button. So let me do top bike button dot bottom. And we'll do a top margin now of 20. All right, so that looks good. All right, so far we have this first page looking pretty good. We did run into one issue where it was kind of a collapsed window. I'm not really sure why, but let's go ahead and add this menu button here now that I see it. Let's do image. And let's go take a look at this image. So this button here is 38 by 38, but instead of hard coding it, if we look at the screen, the width is 360. So the width of this button is about 1/10 of the width of the window. So I'm going to set it that way so that when we scale the window, this button should also scale. Let's call this menu button drawer or menu drawer. And then we'll say width is our parent dot width divided by 10. And then height is going to be our width. That way it's a perfect square. Source, let's give it this menu button here. Okay. And we can see that it's loaded up here. It just doesn't have the proper anchors. So let's give it some anchors. Top, parent dot top, left, parent dot left, and margins, let's give it 20. 15. All right, so that looks pretty good. And now this button here, and actually all these buttons, since I didn't hard code the values for them and instead made them relative to the parent window, if we change this, you can see that our button and our images are scaling with the width and height of the windows itself. So that looks good. The preview seems to render that well. So now let's go ahead and add some interactability to our menu buttons. What I like to do is when a user clicks a button, I like to make the button darker. So how I like to do that is I'll grab the color, I'll copy it, and then I'll just enter it into Google. And that will open up this color picker here. Then I'll drag the picker down slightly, grab the new color, and this will be a darker shade. So now I can go back to the menu button And let's add a mouse area, anchors.fill, parent, and we'll say on pressed. Parent.color is going to be that dark color. Oops. And then on released, parent.color will equal this original color. So now let's try this out. All right, so now we can see that we've made these changes and our live preview has picked it up so that when we're clicking on the image, we can see that it darkens up, indicating that a user has pressed it. Now let's also add a signal button clicked, and we'll add here on button clicked, parent.button clicked. Oop, on clicked. All right, and now let's go to our main menu page, and on the run button, let's hook up to that signal. On button clicked. First, let's do console.log test and see what happens if we click it. All right, we can see here that there's a QML output, and none of these other ones have them. So it seems like it's updating and working properly. Let's add a second page here, and we'll just call this the recording page where it's recording your workout. So let's add that, file, new, and we'll call this recording page .qml. Here, let's add that gradient rectangle. So I'll copy this. Actually, I'll add the menu drawer as well. So let's go to recording page and add this in. Now let's make it so that when we hit this run button here, it will push this recording page onto the stack view and see if that works with the live preview. So we'll go here and then run button, on button clicked. We'll say stack view dot push, and we'll give it this recording page .qml. And just to be safe, I will run qmake. All right, so now I haven't reloaded this application or anything. This is looking good. All right, so when I hit that run button, we can see that this stack view has changed to the recording page now. Let me go back to this recording page and add a mouse area to this menu drawer. So mouse area. So what I've noticed is even though I'm editing this menu drawer here, it didn't stay on that page. It kind of reloaded the whole application. So that's okay. Let's just go ahead and add this in on clicked. We will say stack view dot pop. All right, so now if we click this and if we click this here, it should bring us back to that first page. Oh, let me anchors.fill parent. All right, let's test that out. Good, that looks like it's working. All right, so now let's add this big circle and runner here in the recording page. So I'm gonna go to the recording page. And now let's add that rectangle. All right, so the color is going to be that gray color. Let me just recopy it. It's going to be a circle, so width and height are going to be the same, and then the radius is going to be half of the width. So let's say width is going to be our parent.width times 0.8. Height is going to be our width. Color is going to be that dark color here. And now for the anchor, I'm going to put it horizontally center in the parent, and then I'm just going to set the Y a little bit down. So let's do anchors.horizontal center, parent.horizontal center, Y. Let's do parent.height divided by 10. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so I forgot to set the radius, and I think I can go a little lower. So let's make this 8. And then for the radius, it's going to be width divided by 2. Now let's see that. And then let's open our doc. I think I can go a little lower. So let's put this down to 6. And then let's also add that image of the runner here. So for the runner, I'll set it to slightly lower width and height of the circle. So let's do that. Width is parent.width times 0.8. Height is going to be parent.height times 0.8. And then we'll set the fill mode to image.preserve aspect fit. So what I'm doing with this fill mode here, if we look up QML image, you can see the different fill mode types that we can have. And I always like to just preserve the aspect fit so that when you're scaling the image up or down, it kind of maintains the same aspect ratio, as opposed to here, you can see that the image is slightly stretched or cut off. There's tile. So there are a few different ones, but I always like to just use the preserve aspect fit. All right, and then let's anchor.center in our parent, which is going to be this circle here. And then let's set the source to the runner. All right, now let's see how that looks. And I think that looks pretty good. Yep, so that looks pretty good. Now let's add this distance and total time text here. I'll just add the distance first, which I'll anchor the top of it to the bottom of this image, and then the left with the left of the image. So let me add some text here. Text ID, this will be distance text. And let's see, this is 24 and bold. So we'll do font.bold is true. Font.pixel size is 24. Color is white. And text is distance with a break, and then 6.14 miles. Anchors, top is going to be this image here. So let's give this an ID. Runner, image, background. And we'll copy that, put it here, bottom. Top margin is, I would say, about 20. And left is going to be our runner, image background dot left. And let's see how that looks. All right, that looks pretty good. I think I'll increase the margin a little bit more to 30. And while we're here, let's also add this total time text. Time text. And the anchor, instead of left, is going to be right. And it's going to be to the right of the image. And this will say total time 5653. 5653. And let's see how that looks. All right, that looks pretty good. And let's just center up these texts. So we'll do horizontal alignment, text.align, H center. Let's copy that and put it here. All right, that looks better. All right, so now for the total time, instead of having it this hard-coded 56.53, let's add a C++ object that provides this text and see how it reacts to that. So I'm going to go to File, New File Project. Let's do C++ class. I'll inherit QObject, and I will just call this test class. Next, finish. All right, now I have my text class here. Let's add a Q property, which will be a Q string. And this will just be time display. Oh. So one thing that I'm noticing that's kind of annoying is this just kind of reappeared in the middle of the screen. And since it's on top, I can't really see what I'm doing here. But because I am actually just working on the C++ side right now, I think I can just go ahead and close this. And then let's add the setter and getter for our time display here. So QString, time display, and then public slots, set time display, QString, display, void. And then let's add a private member variable for this, QString, m time display. Let's go ahead and split this. and then set the time display here in our constructor, m time display. Oops. Which will be an empty QString. And then let's implement this setter and getter class. So QString test class time display will return rm time display. And now for the setter, void test class set time display. Set time display. And this will take a QString. So with Q properties, I like to first check if our private member variable time display doesn't equal the display. Then we will set it equal to it and emit. Oh, we don't have the signal here. The signal name is right here on notify time display changed. So let me copy that and add it here. Void time display changed, and then we'll emit that here. And doing this kind of check here is pretty standard. That way this signal here is only emitted when the data model itself changes, and if it doesn't change, then there's no reason to update any of the listeners of this class. And then let's add a way to actually start counting upwards. So let's add a Q timer here, include Q timer. Add a Q timer here, m timer, and then here let's initialize that equals new Q timer this. And even though I set the parent for this Q timer here, so it'll be automatically destroyed when this class gets destroyed, I still do like to manually clean up my pointers. It's just good practice. Test class. So I'll add a destructor here, and then I will destroy this, not delete later. All right, now let's add a slot that we can have our timer hook up to. So here we'll do void time tick, and then let's do m timer dot set interval every 1 second, and then let's connect our m timer. Let me close this so we get a little more room here. And the signal is going to be timeout, and we'll connect it to this and test class. The slot will be time tick here. All right, now let's add this time tick slot here. So void test class time tick. So the idea behind this timer here, it will just tick every 1 second, and then we'll have some way to record time in here, and that way within our QML, this will be updated from our C++. So let's add something to hold our seconds, int m seconds, and then we'll have something for our minutes as well, m minutes. So let's go ahead in our constructor. Let's set those values. M seconds is going to be 0. And m minutes is also going to be 0. And now every time this Q timer ticks, since it's at a 1 second interval, we will do m seconds plus plus. And then let's check if m seconds is greater than or equal to 60. We will want to set m seconds equals to 0. And then our m minutes will plus plus. And now let's construct a QString that will hold our time in a display format. And that will be displayed like this: minute, minute, second, second. So let's add a QString here for new text. And since we want 2 digits for the minutes and 2 digits for the seconds, we want to take care of instances where m equals anything less than 10. So for example, 9. And the same thing for seconds. If seconds is less than 10, we also want to add just a 0 to the beginning of it. So let's say if m minutes is less than 10, new text dot append a 0. Then after that, we'll do new text dot append, and then we'll add the QString number of m minutes. And all we're doing with this QString ::number is we're casting this m minutes to a QString friendly format. And then let's do this same method with our seconds. But before that, let's add the colon. So new text dot append. We'll add that colon there. And then we'll check if m seconds is less than 10. Then new text dot append the 0 character. And then after that, we will new text dot append QString number m seconds. And now let's call this set time display here. So set time display with new text. All right, so that should be good. The only thing I think we need to do is start the timer. Dot start. And now let's add this to our main.c++. Now let's include our test class here. And then let's do a QML register type. QML register type test class. And we'll call the package Monty. Version is 1.0. And then in our QML, let's call this by saying test class. You don't have to have the same name here as you named the class. I just like to do that because it's easier for me to remember. So now this should be ready to use within our QML. So let me go back to QML Preview. All right, so this is now running, which is good. And let me go to the recording page. Let me go up here and do an import Monty 1.0. If we hit run, this is still looking good. Now let's make a test class here, and we'll call this test class. And now we can go down to the time instead of this here. Let's add plus our test class dot time display. All right, and now if we click on this run button here, it should bring us to the second page, and we should see instead of that hard-coded value now a timer that counts upwards if everything works. So let's see. Oh yeah, okay, so there it is. It's counting upwards, so that is good. Looks like it's working. So let's go ahead and add this text in here. I'm just going to grab this and paste it here. Let's go back here. It's going to be paste. So paste text. And for the paste text, we're going to anchor the top to the bottom of the distance text. And the horizontal center, I'll horizontally center with the distance text as well. So here, top is going to be distance text. Dot bottom. And then the margin looks like it's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to change this to 40. And then horizontal center is going to be our distance text dot horizontal center. And then the text is paste 915, paste 915. And now let's click this. And okay, so that looks pretty good. We're getting all of our components are being updated as we edit them in our QML. I definitely think this is something that I'm going to work with further. So all in all, it looks like this QML preview works pretty well. What I think it's doing in the background is probably has a Q file system watcher on all the files within this project directory. And whenever it changes, it just reloads this app. But it does work pretty well. And I think it's something that I will use in my day-to-day workflow in order to speed up this whole UI development portion.